I stared at the elegantly set dinner table, candles flickering around my mother's birthday cake. The smell of her favorite prime rib filled the dining room of Kenneth's house. But tonight felt different, heavier, like something was about to shatter. "Natasha, pass the wine," Kenneth said without looking at me. His voice carried that cold edge I'd grown used to since he married my mother 5 years ago. The tone that reminded me I was just Patricia's baggage from her first marriage. I was 32, single, and according to this family, the disappointing stepdaughter who couldn't measure up to the Hartwell standards. What they didn't know was that I had spent the last 6 years quietly building something that would blow their minds. "Did you hear about Dylan's promotion?" my mother asked, her eyes lighting up as she looked at my stepbrother. "He just got promoted to senior loan officer, youngest in the bank's history." Dylan grinned from across the table. At 29, he'd always been Kenneth's pride and joy, the biological son who could do no wrong. Local college, steady job, girlfriend who fit their image of success. "That's great," I said quietly, cutting a piece of meat. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for me to show jealousy or bitterness. I gave them nothing. "Speaking of careers," Kenneth began, setting down his wine glass with deliberate slowness. "We need to talk about your living situation." My chest tightened. I'd been expecting this conversation. 6 years ago, when I left my corporate IT job to start my online education platform, they'd rolled their eyes, called it a pipe dream, said I'd come crawling back when reality hit. Instead, I'd worked in silence, building a business that now generated over $50,000 a month. But they didn't know that. They thought I was barely getting by, living in my father's old condo out of charity. The same condo my real father had left to me before he died, the one place Kenneth could never truly claim. "Natasha," Kenneth continued, his voice getting sharper. "Patricia and I have decided you need to sell the condo. I need the money to cover some business expenses." I took another bite, chewing slowly. "I see. Don't play dumb," Dylan jumped in. "You've been freelancing from that place for years while the rest of us work real jobs. It's time to be practical." My mother nodded, avoiding my eyes. "We've already talked to a realtor. The market's good right now. Your father's place has just been sitting there gathering dust anyway." The casual dismissal of my father's memory hit harder than their judgment of me. He'd been the only one who believed in my dreams, who taught me that quiet persistence beats loud boasting every time. "So," Kenneth said, pulling out his phone and showing me a real estate listing. "I've already had it appraised. Should cover what I need and leave you enough for a nice apartment downtown." I looked at the screen but didn't touch his phone. "And if I say no?" Dylan laughed. "Come on, Natasha. You're working from a laptop in coffee shops. How are you going to afford the property taxes, insurance, and maintenance on a place like that?" If they'd bothered to look, they'd have seen that I'd been paying all those expenses myself for 3 years. But they never looked, never asked, never saw past their assumptions about my little online thing. "We're being reasonable," my mother added, finally meeting my eyes. "You can use your share to get a fresh start somewhere more appropriate for your lifestyle." The dismissal in her voice made my fork clatter against the plate as I set it down. They'd never respected Carmen, who'd not only run the local cafe where I worked on my laptop for 3 years but had become my closest advisor, helping me understand the real estate market from the ground up. "The condo belongs to me," I said quietly. "Dad left it to me." Kenneth's face flushed red. "Then you leave us no choice." He stood up, his bulky frame looming over the table. "Pack your things and get out. I need that money, and I'm not asking any more. We'll settle this through lawyers if we have to." I looked at each of them in turn. Kenneth, rigid with the authority he'd claimed over our family. My mother, lips pressed together in the disappointed expression she'd perfected. Dylan, practically radiating smugness. Slowly, deliberately, I reached into my purse and pulled out my condo keys. The same keys my father had pressed into my hand before he died, along with whispered words, "Build something they can't take away from you." I placed them on the table with a soft click. Thanks for the birthday dinner, Mom, I said, standing up. And for showing me exactly where I stand. Where you stand? Dylan snorted. You're being evicted. I smiled slightly. We'll see. As I headed for the door, Kenneth called out, Don't even think about fighting this, Natasha. You can't afford lawyers, and no bank is going to help some freelancer. I paused at the doorway, thinking about the email drafts waiting in my laptop, about the video call I'd scheduled for tomorrow morning that would destroy their assumptions forever. Good night, I said softly, and walked out. In my car, I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. I typed a simple message, family video call tomorrow 9 a.m. Important business matter. Then I drove home, my real home, and prepared for the morning when they'd see exactly what their disappointing stepdaughter had actually built. Because while they'd been busy dismissing me, I'd been busy creating something that would leave them speechless. The next morning, I sat at my home office desk, watching the sunrise through the floor-to-ceiling windows. My laptop showed 8:58 a.m. In exactly 2 minutes, my family would join a video call that would change everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Carmen, just saw Kenneth's car speeding toward your mom's house. He looked furious about something. I smiled, remembering the revenue dashboard I'd prepared to share. The timing was perfect. At exactly 9 a.m., my laptop chimed with incoming video calls. One by one, their faces appeared on screen. Kenneth looked irritated, Dylan confused, and my mother worried. This better be important, Natasha, Kenneth growled through the screen. I've got real work to do. I clicked the screen share button. I think you'll find this very important. Let me show you something. I pulled up my business dashboard one final time. Everything was ready. 6 years of careful planning, of building in silence, of strategic patience, all leading to this moment. The screen shared perfectly. Kenneth's jaw dropped as numbers filled their screens. What the hell is this? These revenue figures, this says you're making what per month? Behind him through his camera, I could see my mother gripping her phone. Dylan's face had gone completely white as he stared at his screen. I adjusted my laptop angle, making sure they could see everything clearly. Would you like me to walk you through this? It might take a while to explain. Explain what? Dylan stammered. How you've been lying to us. No, I said calmly. How you've been lying to yourselves. I clicked to the first screen, showing my education platform's monthly analytics. When Dad died and I started this online business, you all assumed I'd fail. What you didn't know was that he'd also left me his investment advice, his strategies, his belief in me. My mother leaned closer to her phone screen, her composure cracking. But you've been working from coffee shops, no real office, always on that laptop. I switched to the next screen. A real-time revenue tracker showing money flowing in from multiple income streams. Those weren't signs of struggle, Mom. They were signs of strategy. Every stream you see belongs to Hartwell Digital Education, my company. Impossible, Kenneth whispered. That's over $50,000 a month. $58,000 last month, I corrected, and growing. Including the digital marketing consulting I do for local businesses. Like Dylan's bank, actually. I've been optimizing their online loan applications for 6 months now. Dylan sank back in his chair, his face pale. The new customer portal, the one that increased our applications by 40%. My design, I said with a slight smile. Your manager mentioned you were impressed with the results. I'm glad my work helped your promotion. Kenneth's hands were trembling now. But your lifestyle, living in that small condo, driving that old car. Smart financial planning, I finished for him. Why waste money on status symbols when I can reinvest in growth? The condo's been paid off for 2 years. I own it free and clear. But how? My mother demanded. Where did you learn all this? I thought about the nights I'd spent learning coding, the weekends building courses with Carmen's business insights, the online communities I'd joined while they assumed I was just wasting time on my computer. I started with freelancing, I explained. Used my IT background to build websites, then created online courses teaching those skills. Carmen helped me understand the local market, connected me with business owners who needed digital help. I pulled up another screen, my investment portfolio. The total made my mother gasp audibly through her phone. That's. She couldn't finish the sentence. More than Kenneth's business is worth, I supplied. Yes, significantly more. Kenneth cleared his throat, his business instincts finally cutting through his shock. Why reveal all this now? Why not before? Because you needed to show who you really are first, I said calmly. I wanted to see if you'd actually try to steal my father's legacy from me. The home he trusted me with. And you did. I leaned back in my chair, looking at each of their faces on screen. Now we can discuss how things really work. Kenneth, your manufacturing business has been struggling for 2 years. I know because I've been watching, waiting to see if you'd come to me honestly for help. You want to charge your own family for help? My mother asked, her voice shaking. The same way you were ready to steal from me, I replied evenly. Business is business, isn't that right, Kenneth? That's what you always taught Dylan. Dylan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The bank consultants we've been working with. Work for me, I cut him off. I've been the one improving your digital systems for months. Your promotion happened because of my work. The silence that followed was complete. Years of assumptions, of dismissals, of treating me like a failure, all destroyed in a single video call. Kenneth was the first to speak again. What do you want from us? Respect, I said simply. Not as your stepdaughter. You've made those feelings clear. But as a businesswoman who's built something real, something substantial. I shared my screen one more time, showing formal consulting proposals for each of them. Kenneth, your business needs digital transformation. Dylan, your bank needs better customer acquisition. Mom, your real estate license could actually mean something if you learned modern marketing. And if we say no? Dylan challenged, though his voice had lost its earlier confidence. I smiled, thinking of my father's advice about building something they couldn't take away. Then you keep struggling while I keep growing. But Carmen's Cafe has been looking to expand into business consulting. I'm sure she'd love some new clients. As they ended the video call one by one, I heard my mother say to Kenneth off camera, "Did you have any idea? Any clue at all?" "No," he replied, sounding defeated. We never bothered to look. I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair. Carmen appeared in my doorway with coffee, the same blend she'd served me during countless planning sessions at her cafe. They finally see your success, she said, setting the cup on my desk. I nodded, thinking about the journey from that first freelance website to now. They see the money, I corrected. They don't see me yet, but maybe now they'll try. My phone buzzed with notifications from new potential clients, word spreading about my successful business. The empire I'd built quietly was about to become very public. But first, I had courses to create, clients to serve, and my father's memory to honor. The family drama could wait. After all, I had all the time in the world now, and all the power too. 1 month after the video call revelation, I sat in my new downtown office space, a modern co-working facility that overlooked the city's business district. The morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows as I reviewed my expanding client roster. My phone buzzed with a text from Dylan, "Can we meet?" Just us? In the weeks since the video call, my family had reacted in completely different ways. Mom had started texting daily, switching between guilty apologies and obvious attempts to figure out how much money I was really making. Kenneth had gone silent, signing the business consulting contract without a word. But Dylan had been strangely quiet. "Meet me at Carmen's Cafe at 2, I texted back. My phone chimed with a calendar reminder. Video conference with TechStart Academy in 5 minutes, the notification read. I straightened my posture and opened my laptop. Time to close another deal. The meeting went perfectly. They'd been trying to license my digital marketing course for months. Now they wanted to acquire my entire education platform instead. Amazing how quickly things shift when people realize who actually has the expertise. At exactly 2 p.m., Dylan walked into Carmen's cafe. He looked different, less confident, more genuine somehow. The cocky bank employee attitude was completely gone. "Nice setup," he said, glancing at my laptop and the professional lighting I'd installed at my regular table. "Better than my cubicle." "Your bank's digital consulting contract is up for renewal next month," I replied, gesturing for him to sit. "We should talk about that too." He slumped into the chair across from me. "That's part of why I'm here. They're restructuring. My promotion got reversed after they found out I'm related to their main consultant." I studied his face carefully. And I'm being demoted back to entry level," he admitted. "Apparently having your consultant as your stepsister creates conflict of interest concerns." I leaned back, processing this information. "What do you want, Dylan?" He rubbed his forehead, a nervous habit I remembered from when we were younger. "Help, I guess." "How did you do it? Build all this while we thought you were just messing around on your laptop?" I thought about all those family gatherings where they'd celebrated his small promotions while completely ignoring my growing business. All the times I'd tried to share my successes and gotten blank stares. "I learned from Dad," I said finally. "Not just about investing, but about patience, about building something real while everyone else focuses on appearances." "He always believed in you," Dylan murmured. "Said you had his mind for strategy?" I thought he was being nice to his struggling daughter. Everyone thought that. It was useful. I opened a new document on my laptop, one I'd been preparing for weeks. "Your bank isn't struggling because of our family situation," I told him. "It's struggling because their digital strategy is completely outdated. Their customer experience is terrible, and their loan approval process is from the Stone Age." He blinked. "How do you know all that?" "Because I've been analyzing them for months, just like I analyze every client, every competitor, every opportunity." I turned the screen toward him. "This is a complete digital transformation plan that could save them millions." "Why show me this?" "Because I'm offering you a position," I said simply. "Not because we're family, but because you understand banking operations and I need someone to manage my fintech consulting division." The shock on his face was almost funny. "You want me to work for you?" "With me," I corrected. "As an equal partner in the fintech consulting division. But understand something, this isn't about family. This is business. You'll earn your position or you'll lose it, just like anyone else." He stared at the contract I placed on the table between us. "Does Kenneth know about this offer?" "Kenneth doesn't make my business decisions," I replied. "Neither does Mom, or anyone else. That's the first lesson you'll need to learn if you accept." Dylan picked up the contract, reading it carefully. His banking background hadn't completely failed him. "The base salary is less than what I make now," he noted. "The base salary is," I agreed. "But the profit sharing and equity options are significantly higher. Another lesson, build ownership, not just paychecks." A small smile crossed his face. "Dad taught you that?" "Among other things." I gestured around Carmen's cafe, where I'd built so many of my business relationships. "He taught me that real success isn't in what you show people. It's in what you build while they're busy judging you." He signed the contract without asking more questions. A first for him. As he got up to leave, he paused by my table. "I'm sorry, Natasha. For everything we put you through." "I know," I said quietly. "Now prove it by helping me build something even better." That evening, I drove to the cemetery where my father was buried, placing fresh flowers beside his headstone. The late afternoon sun filtered through the trees as I sat on the small bench nearby. "You were right, Dad," I said softly, "about everything. About building something they couldn't take away, about patience being stronger than pride." I told him about Dylan, about the business expansion, about the success that had grown from his investment advice and belief in me. I know he would have been proud, not just of the money, but of how I'd earned it. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom, asking about family dinner this Sunday. This time, she suggested having it at my condo. A small recognition of the new reality. I texted back yes. Let them come. Let them sit at my table, in my space, surrounded by my success. Let them finally see what had been there all along, a woman who turned their dismissal into determination. Because sometimes the person they overlook is the one building something extraordinary. Sometimes the stepdaughter they ignore becomes the success they can't deny. And sometimes, just sometimes, quiet persistence beats loud criticism every time. I looked up at the evening sky, feeling the weight of everything I'd created, everything I'd become. Thank you, Dad, I whispered, for teaching me that being underestimated is the greatest advantage of all. Then I walked back to my car, ready to keep building, growing, succeeding. Not for their approval anymore. Never again for their validation. But for myself, and for every person who's been told they don't measure up. Because I wasn't just Natasha anymore. I was the founder of a thriving education company, the owner of a growing investment portfolio, and living proof that sometimes the best response to doubt isn't words, it's results you build when they're not paying attention.